shooting down in the woods. He wouldn't leave it even if he could. 'Cause life is good, yeah!
Hickok45 here, your handsome internet shooting companion. Pretty funny, huh? Anyway, coming to you from Middle Tennessee. Wow, where it's been really hot, humid, and even rainy. You know, not the best weather. A little bit like not jungle weather, like rainforest weather, where it's just hot, humid, rainy. You know, just little breaks between the rain and well, I don't know if there's a break from the heat, but and humidity. But it's okay. I love Middle Tennessee, and I just have kind of gotten used to it. As you can tell, again, a lot of the videos in the summer, whichever videos you're looking at, you probably see a sweaty Hickok45, because we don't just sneak out of the air conditioning to do a quick video. I'm usually out and around, and then we do a video. So that's the reality of it. But anyway, we're back again. Going to chat at you about a couple of things. And what are we going to chat about? I don't know. As long as Gunner will let me talk here without barking at me in the reloading room, we will chat about, let's see. Oh, to talk about some firearms use around the farm here. Some defensive guns versus range guns, perhaps. Gun or two that I've gotten in, and let's see, gun I've had, some experience with full auto. What else am I going to talk about? Concealed carry laws, maybe, and who knows what else. Okay, we'll just launch into it and see what we can talk about. How's that? I want to start out with something fairly serious. You might have by now seen the video. A viewer, hopefully viewers use the information on the channel, but a subscriber sent me a link to the video. It's on YouTube, of the police stop in Canton, Ohio. If you've seen it, you already know what I'm talking about. But it's a situation I'm not totally clear on. I didn't see it on TV. I did see a tease for it on Fox News that it was going to be running. So that's great. You know, they'll get lots of publicity. That's good. You always want to see somebody who is not acting professionally get lots of publicity for it, don't you? And that'll take care of that situation. Shine the light on something like that. But at any rate, I looked at it on YouTube, just on my broadband, and kind of fits and starts. I saw most of it. So again, I qualify with that. I saw enough of it to kind of get an idea what was going on. I saw the police officer going crazy. And I don't know what all the situation was there. It was it some of you all may know more about it than I do. It looked like this guy was giving, I don't know, this couple a ride, or offering them a ride, or something. And I think maybe she was a prostitute. I'm not sure what the deal was. And largely that's irrelevant, I guess, to the issue. The guy in the car was a permit holder, carry permit holder. And in Ohio, you're supposed to, by law, notify the police officer when you're stopped that you are carrying, or you have a permit, or you're carrying. You have a permit. And he did not do that. And part of the question there is why, as I was looking at, I think the gist was that the permit holder was claiming that the officer wouldn't give him a chance. The officer was very authoritarian and demanding, and the situation there is fluid, as those kinds of things can be. In the officer's, plural, defense there, you had a situation of some sort, and then at least he thought so, and then he was searching the car and everything, and the guy with the permit was sitting in the car, and the officer just goes really berserk when he realizes that there was a man with a gun in the car, and he didn't know it, as he was searching the car. So you can Google that or search for that video, you'll find it. But I don't know. I just looked at most of it, or in pieces of it, about 3/4 of the way through. But I think I got the idea, kind of what was going on. The basic point there I got, and that is, be aware of what your laws are, because this guy really caught it for not notifying the police officer that he was carrying and had a permit. Now, the officer, I don't know, I'd have to look at it again, but it did look like he was not given a chance to speak hardly, and he could have been maybe more assertive, but he didn't feel like he had a chance to speak up and interrupt the officer, and for whatever the issue was there. But even if he just failed to do it, it seemed like an incredible overreaction. And I think the guy mentioned he had just had his permit for about a month or something. So, I know how that is, and he stopped by police and all that kind of thing. So he's probably a little reluctant to talk about it. I don't know. But anyway, the policeman just went bonkers over it. And I guess in Ohio, they've not had the carry permit as long. I know in a lot of states it takes the police a while to kind of get used to that, for one thing. And I know early on when the carry permits started coming through in various states, in some cases the police were not really for it. I mean, it's obviously it puts another element out there on the road. But again, most cops will tell you they like it. It helps reduce crime, and when they're off duty, they have a firearm, and when they retire, they want a firearm, they want a permit. So most cops are for it, but there's that few who are not. Obviously, anybody that's in charge would like for everybody else to be totally unarmed. Look at some of the countries around the world. Just like the bumper sticker says, an unarmed citizen is a subject, not a citizen, so it makes it a lot easier to control people if they have no authority, of course. But at any rate, you'll see the video, maybe already have. The officer really overreacts, and the point here that I wanted to make is we just need to be careful whenever we're stopped for speeding or whatever if you are carrying. Not a big deal. I mean, to most officers, it's just not a big deal at all. And it doesn't matter whether it is a big deal. As long as you handle it correctly. We hire them. They work for us. They have to abide by the law. We know the law. So as much respect as I have for police officers, they're working for me. And if I want to carry, that's none of their business unless by law I have to give them certain information, right? Which I'm perfectly willing to do. So what Tom Gresham, whenever I hear him speak of this, recommends is that you do not say when the officer comes up to your window, excuse me, I live in Tennessee, it's winter. When the officer comes up to your window, you do not lead with, oh, officer, I've got a gun. Maybe it's not the best thing to say. Maybe he didn't hear you clearly. Maybe your car matches the description of some stolen vehicle or something some murderer's driving around in, and you match the description, whatever. Or maybe you just look like a thug, because you look like me. You just look thuggish, And the first words he hears, you say, I got a gun. Well, maybe he didn't even hear you clearly. Maybe he also thought you said, I got a gun, I want to shoot you or something. So he recommends, and I fully agree, that you say something very clearly to the officer, maybe like, hi, officer. I would say, hi, officer. I do have a legal carry permit or something like that. I have a legal carry permit, officer, or whatever you call it in your state. And then, let it go from there. And then he might, so then you have a firearm, yes, and then you use the word firearm, and you just be careful you don't slur something out like, I've got a gun. That might not be the best move, right? So be very professional, be very clear, and very courteous, and you're not likely to ever encounter anything like happens in that video. But even if you do, you've got to be calm. You've got to be calm. The officer has all the authority in a situation. And short of having your life threatened, you just have to stay calm and deal with it later. Whatever, arrest me, do whatever you got to do. You just make sure you're saying the right things, you're doing the right things, you're acting calmly and very non-threatening way. Your hands are up on the wheel. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. And if things go down differently, as did apparently in this video, then you can make it your mission in life, as I would do. I would make it my mission the next day, the next week, whenever I can, to be on the mayor's doorstep, the police chief's doorstep, the governor's doorstep, Facebook, YouTube, the internet. Everybody will know exactly what happened, just as in this case. So we have lots of ways to make something that's totally unfair public these days, and that's a wonderful thing, isn't it? It gives power to the people. Wow. Kind of what this country stands for. We're in charge. So anyway, the police work for us. They're 95% great guys, great gals. But if something like that were to happen, stay calm. Make sure you say the right thing, and just deal with it. There's always going to be a bad apple. You name the profession, there's going to be a bad apple, or there's going to be someone who had a bad day. As I say, the guy might have had too much coffee. His wife might have left him 3 days before. His kids are mean to him. He had his car repossessed. He's in debt, and he's got a big bill due next day. You don't know what kind of stress a person's going through, at any given time. And of course, police officers in an authoritative position. So just be cool, be calm, do what you're supposed to do. And I think that's the message to us. Of course, also the message is shine a light on anything that is just not right. And again, I have to see the video again. I can't make a definitive judgment on everything that went on in that video, but it is a reminder, whatever the determination is on that video, it is a reminder for us to stay calm and do what we're supposed to do and notify officers, and if you're supposed to in your state, and if you're not legally bound to notify the officer, then that's maybe a subject for another day, whether or not you should do that. I know that's a little bit controversial. People have different opinions on that. So anyway, just thought I'd ramble about that a little bit. Well, after that serious discussion, let's go ahead and do Gun Action of the Week. Last week, I don't think many people got it. I'm not sure all the comments and views have come through on that radio show from last week. I know that YouTube was having a problem. I'm not sure they've gotten all that corrected for that little time period or not. But at any rate, I didn't see any votes, I don't think, for the SKS. Yes, it was the SKS I dug out of the safe and brought out here and manipulated for you. And that was the gun. So, let's look at this week's gun. Da-da-da-da. Here we go. That's a familiar sound around the Hickok compound, isn't it? Very familiar sound. Even more familiar when there's a blast associated with it, right? You might have just heard the pitter-patter of Gunner's feet running into the room, too. I don't know if that picked up or not. Gunner doesn't just sort of amble in. Everything with a puppy, a 3-month-old puppy. He's almost 3 months, I guess. Well, not quite. It's either full speed or not at all. So it's funny, he comes running in, running out. But anyway, back to the gun. Okay. Hear that? Let's pull the trigger. Okay. There we go. Now, what clues should I give you? You probably have it narrowed down to some extent. It's a gun. Let's just say it's one of the most popular guns on the planet. And it is in one of the most popular calibers on the planet. Yeah, one of the most popular handguns probably in the United States today. So that's all I'm going to tell you, unless Gunner says something. You want to give him a clue, Gunner? No, now he thinks he might sleep. We'll see. I was going to talk a little bit about your defensive gun. I guess mainly people with carry permits, but not exclusively. You may just have a defensive gun you keep in the house for whatever reason. Hopefully you keep it safely or safely away from kids, that kind of thing. And you know how to do that. My advice, I guess, is my reminder to you is try not to get too bored with your defensive gun. I think people mix up all these firearms that they have sometimes, and they get bored, literally bored, with an ugly gun, that there's nothing all that special about it. Here's the example. Let's say you're carrying a Glock 26. You shot it. You don't really like it. You think they're ugly, maybe. You know, you're not crazy about polymer, but you just shoot the thing well. It always works. You know, it holds 10 rounds in the magazine. You know, flush magazine in a Glock 26, and you just decided that's man, that's just your gun. You know, it's handy. You know, or whatever it is, PM9 or a PF9, whatever it is, that just works. A little ugly, but it's just what you like. But you've got these other guns too, these really cool 1911s or double action revolvers, and who knows what else. And so you decide, oh man, I love this 1911. It's so sexy. Gosh, it's just great. It shoots a bigger bullet. So you start mixing around and carrying it. And then you've got a thumb safety you're not used to. You carry it for a few days. Then you go back to the Glock. Then you decide this revolver is awfully cool. This, whatever it is, 686, some other K-frame or something, you carry it. You know, it's just so fun. You know, you like the gun so much, but it's a little thick or it is a little heavy or, you know, I don't, really have any backup ammo to carry with it or whatever. You know, I don't really shoot it that much. I just like it. I want to carry it. You know, I've got a carry permit. I'm legal to carry if I want to, you know, and all this kind of. Well, I could talk about this for hours because I've seen really experienced shooters go through this, including myself, and then new shooters, of course, deal with this, I think. And maybe even less to some extent. If you just have one gun, you just have a couple of handguns, it's not as big a problem, but my advice is don't let it bother you if your defensive gun is boring looking, if it's ugly, if it's polymer and black steel, you know, and you've got this really cool looking, beautiful 1911 that's steel and walnut, you know, or a beautiful Smith & Wesson revolver. You got the same thing. You know, your carry gun doesn't have to be beautiful. It's a functional piece, very functional piece of hardware. And just make sure you shoot it and you practice with it. But then just thoroughly enjoy anything else you have. Maybe one of those other firearms can serve a role too. Perhaps it's like a bedside gun or something. It's a gun you keep in a lockbox by the bedside or, you know, up high somewhere, depending on what your family situation is, you know, with kids and all that. But some other firearms can, of course, serve the same, a defensive purpose. Or maybe they just are range guns. That's okay, you know. They're just guns you enjoy owning, you enjoy shooting. If you ever had to, you could carry it, but it's just a gun you like. Try to keep those separate in a lot of ways. Make sure you practice with your range gun. Enjoy it enough. You want to pick one. I say carry. I meant carry gun. Make sure you practice with your carry gun, and ideally, you pick a carry gun that you like. You do need to like it, I think, or else you won't shoot it. You know, and certainly most people do like the gun they carry, but sometimes it can be that ugly gun. You know, that gun that just doesn't compare with some of the other fine specimens you have. You know, so you know I'm kind of with the old Glock 27. What's there to love about the looks of a Glock 27? I've got an Ed Brown 1911. I got some beautiful Smith & Wesson revolvers. You know some of the guns I have. You know. And it'd be tempting to pack those, but none of them really is going to work as well for me as that Glock 27 or a Glock 23 or a Glock 26 or a Glock 19. Those are probably my four favorite packing firearms, other than the PM9. You know. So anyway, my message: don't worry about it if it's a little boring. Just make sure you shoot with it and that you can shoot it well. And enjoy the other firearms too. I advise you not to be switching around a lot, particularly if you have a different manual of arms. You know, one gun, one week you got a thumb safety, one week you don't. You know, one week you got a pull and shoot gun, and then you don't the next, and it's not advisable, at least by me. So anyway, sometimes boring is best. And you know, speaking of different guns for different purposes, sometimes, I mean, hopefully I give some good advice here and there, but then again, by the guns I own and prefer, talk about and use, keep in mind that I'm a little different than a lot of folks. I'm not a lot different. where I live and what I do, and I've been doing a lot of this for so long, I've developed uses for firearms. Maybe other people have not, whether it's stopping lawnmowers or tree trimming, whatever. But I mean, I have guns I use that for. I was just out. I thought of this because I was just out a couple days ago doing some tree trimming. I mean, how many people have done this in the last month, just as a matter of just part of your chores? Something I do regularly, 3-4 times a year. I have I don't know, it's kind of a waist. I don't know what it's called. It's really for skeet shooting and that kind of thing. You snap it on. It's got big pockets in it. I usually use it, and I've got a couple other things like that for trap shooting or skeet shooting, which I rarely ever use for those activities. But I put those on, and I fill them up with shotgun shells, maybe 100, 150 rounds of 12 gauge, usually 7.5 birdshot. Works well. And I go out on a tree trimming mission, bush trimming, whatever. Anything I have really difficulty getting to with a good hacking knife, because it's up a little higher or the limb needs to be taken off up a little bit higher than I can reach. I mean, generally the reason I'm taking it off is it's hanging down on the trail, growing down into the trail, and I just want to take it off higher. Or sometimes you'll get some really nasty mess of vines and everything back in there. It's just really tough to get in there to it. It might be at eye level, but I'll just use the old 12 gauge method to cut something off with it. But so anyway, I mean, that's just a very I came back with I probably, like I say, may have had 125 rounds. I came back with less than a box probably. I used the Mossberg 590A1, the military shotgun. Little did the military know, it's actually a tree trimmer, and works beautifully. Any of the shotguns I own work well. I don't know which one I like the best, really. The 870, the Benelli, and the Mossberg. All three work really well for trimming tree limbs. I can't say enough about how well they work. I don't know if they're aware of that at Home Depot or Lowe's, but those guns do a great job of trimming. And same with holsters and handguns. I'm out on the farm. I have some outside the waistband holsters that I would not necessarily recommend for carry permit use, but they work well for my purposes just around the farm. Particularly on a day when, if you're out for 2-3 hours, you're almost totally soaked, with the perspiration if you're doing anything. Well, if I've got outside the waistband holster and a stainless steel revolver or 1911, then that works great on those days. I may do some plinking when I'm over on the lower 40, or I just want to be ready. I get back to the house and somebody's carrying out the TV and everything else. I'm prepared for that. So firearms have lots of purposes and uses. I think one of the Foxworthy jokes I like, I think I used to have it hanging here in the reloading room for a good while. I had a daily calendar of Jeff Foxworthy jokes, and one of them was, let's see, you might be a redneck if you've ever removed a wart with a firearm thing. Okay, I think I changed it to tick, but because it would probably work. You might get a little burn there, but you could probably shoot a tick off your arm. I would do that very carefully if I were you. But anyway, firearms have lots of uses, and I try to learn what I can from their capabilities. And whether it's emptying a barrel full of water, of course, as you know, or opening watermelons, opening pumpkins, we've found a multitude of purposes they serve. So that's one reason I rarely call them weapons. I use them every day for something, and it's virtually never as a weapon. So that's me. Thought I'd talk about a gun I had, came to mind, that might surprise you. Back in the early 70s, I had a Remington 700 with a big scope on it, a 3-9 Redfield. I think it was called wide field. It was a Redfield wide field scope. I believe wide angle or wide field, something like that. 3-9 power, and it was a Remington 700 bolt action with a heavy barrel. Now, they may have had 3 different grades of barrels, one standard, one heavy, and then one really heavy. I don't know. It was heavy, but it wasn't like some, it wasn't one of these 10-pound barrels that I've seen. But it was a heavier barrel. Varmint barrel, maybe it was called. I don't know. And that's why I'd gotten it. I've never been a big hunter, but at that time, I went through a couple of years there, in about 74, I guess, 75, where I did do some groundhog hunting. They're a real problem in the bean fields around Middle Tennessee. And so I used to work with a guy who had a lot of acreage in a lot of bean fields that he was always trying to get the groundhogs out of, keep from eating his soybeans. And so when those soybeans would get up just a little bit, the groundhogs would come out and try to munch them off. Well, I helped him out a little bit. And I will say that Remington 700 was a tack driver. It really was. I mean, I would rest it on a fence post or something, or on a tree, and I made some shots on groundhogs. It just amazed me, because that was real. I was not that experienced in shooting. I had shot a fair amount, but not anything like I have now. So that gun must have had a great trigger, and somehow I got that scope on just right, because I remember 4 or 5 just amazing shots at long range I made with it. So anyway, for those who think that I hate scopes, never used one before, just thought I'd bring that old firearm up. And that's a common firearm, of course, kind of a classic, isn't it? The Remington 700. It was a beautiful gun. I don't know why I traded or sold that. Who knows why that really goes back. I think I just had that for maybe a couple of years, because when I realized, I was not going to be hunting with it, and by the way, it was a 243. Not necessarily the ultimate varmint round. I think usually when you think of people going to hunt prairie dogs, they use something like a 22-250 or maybe even a 223 or something. But I think I wanted it to be a little bit more versatile in case I did ever hunt deer with it or something. So I got it in a 243, and even hand-loaded 243 for just a short period there. I guess the only necked cartridge I ever hand-loaded a rifle. But boy, was that thing accurate and sweet to shoot. So, So I have had a scoped rifle, a sniper rifle, as some of you like to call them. By now, most of you probably have seen the MP40 video, the fully auto MP40 video, and I thought I'd say a couple of words about that. Well, first of all, again, as I thanked the gun shop in the description, down at Jolton, Tennessee, there's some good fellows that work there and own the shop, and everything. Gunner's trying to scratch me here, and they have some cool guns and privately owned. So it's not like I'm pulling guns off the shop rack. They do not have Class 3 license, actually. They as a shop, but some of the guys that work there, have gone that route, just as I did one time with an Uzi, and gone through the paperwork, and to own a firearm like that. So anyway, that's where that came from. And speaking of the Uzi, that's one of the things I was going to mention. It's funny because I guess new subscribers or people who haven't gotten around the channel or don't know me very well yet act like that was like some brand new thing, me shooting a full auto firearm. We shoot full auto firearms every time we go to Knob Creek, the Lucky Gunner machine gun shoot. I had an Uzi for 10 years, and I've had opportunities to shoot MP5, full auto, silenced. There are a lot of fully auto firearms I've fired. I don't know, M16s, the Thompson, 45 ACP, of course, the BAR, the Lucky Gunner. I was glad to get a chance to shoot a BAR. It was cool. What else? I shot a Sten gun over there. Trying to think what else I've shot up at Knob Creek. I wanted to shoot the Browning BMG. I've never fired one of those. So, and the Uzi I had for 10 years. So, in fact, that was one of the first guns John ever shot. I just put it on semi-auto. Literally, he almost couldn't lift. He had to sit down. He was very young, but I felt like it was the easiest gun for him to shoot because there was no recoil. It was like shooting a 22. And in semi-automatic, I put it on semi-auto, and you got a 10-pound chunk of Uzi, shooting a 9mm cartridge. So that's great. That was great. It was easy. There's like no recoil at all. And of course, the 9 isn't going to knock you around with a gun like that, just like with the MP40. The MP40, I don't know if it weighs as much as an Uzi. It was a little bit heavier than I thought. It's pretty close to an Uzi. So you've got a pretty good sized chunk of iron there, and you're shooting a 9mm. So a lot of people remarked on how little recoil there was. So of course, I tend not to show a lot of recoil. I know no matter what I'm shooting, but with that gun, it's just there is no recoil. You shoot it one-handed because it's a fairly heavy gun shooting a 9mm. But anyway, I've shot lots of full auto stuff, and I don't go out of my way to seek it. I mean, I could go get a license and get another gun or two anytime I wanted. It's kind of like the muzzle loading stuff, percussion revolvers or whatever. I like it all, but I'm not desperate to just shoot any one specific type of firearm. And I know some people are amazed at that. Why I don't have some full auto stuff. Or how I could ever sell an Uzi. I had an Uzi, legally owned, of course. Why would I ever sell that? Well, at the time I was, I'd had it for 10 years. I'd shoot every now and then. The novelty kind of wore off a little bit, I guess. I had the yen at the time, I recall, for the Shiloh Sharps. How's that for a contrast? A single shot buffalo rifle. And those things are real expensive, really expensive. And it was at a gun show, and there was a dealer, legal dealer. In fact, the guy was a physician who dealt in firearms, and he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. If I'm going to sell, this is a good opportunity, because this guy, quadrupled my money on it, and this guy, of course, is a legal dealer. I don't have to worry about him, and so in a weak moment, I sold it. But I just like all sorts of firearms. I enjoy full auto, but I'm not driven to just full auto stuff, or just muzzle loaders, or just single shot, or just revolvers, or just Glocks, or just 1911s. I think, if anything, I don't even have to say that, do I? Just look at the playlists, the videos. I like them all and enjoy them. But full auto is fun at times, no doubt about it. And of course, a lot of people are still amazed it's legal. I guess it's because, other than the machine gun shoots, I guess that's the first full auto video I've posted, I guess. And it'd be the same at any of the machine gun shoots I attend. I've got several videos up there from Knob Creek, and of course the Lucky Gunner machine gun shoot. If it's legal there, it's legal anywhere, by and large in the United States, unless you are living in a state where it's not. Now, there are some states where you cannot own it legally, so you have to be aware of that. If you're driven to own full auto firearms, check the state laws. I know at one point Missouri did not allow it, because I know when I had the Uzi, I was possibly going to take a job in Missouri. A promotion. I was working in a different field at the time, and I had to make that decision. It wasn't based on that, but I would have had to have made arrangements on that gun. I transferred it to somebody else, had done something, sold it, anyway. If I had taken that position, I wouldn't have been able to own it there, or at least I don't know what all the specific laws would have been. That may have changed since then, but that was the deal back in the 80s, I recall. But anyway, full auto's fun. It's just not everything. At all. Nothing like marksmanship, and nothing like aimed fire. Aimed fire. Deliberate aimed fire. I've said often, if I'm ever shot at, I hope it's some skinny little guy with an AK, a skinny little inexperienced shooter with an AK-47 in full auto. I hope that's the guy shooting at me. Not some experienced warrior shooting semi-automatic, because you take one of our Marines, or anybody who's experienced with an M16 or an AR-15 with deliberate aimed fire, and they'll take out 50 to 1 of those amateurish I don't want to. I don't mean to be derogative, but some of the countries we end up in fighting guys that someone's thrown them an AK, and a couple of magazines, and they're not exactly warriors or soldiers, and maybe haven't even fired 100 rounds in their lives. Well, there's just no match. Now, obviously, they're going to luck up and hit some people, but that's who I want shooting at me. Somebody's getting knocked all around by the recoil of something, can't handle it, and they're shooting full auto, and they think that all you do is pull the trigger and you're going to hit everything out there in front of you, because that's not the case. But full auto is fun. There's no doubt about it. You get somebody with some experience who can shoot with full auto, and then it's a little different story, You might have seen I guess it was up at Knob Creek, and anywhere you've seen some people shooting machine guns that know how to handle it. If you can hold it on target, you do have a very effective weapon, of course. Well, I better let you go this week, and I'll chat at you next week, possibly. Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, I know, I was going to say, I hope you get a chance to shoot this week, and if not, just look at YouTube videos, whatever floats your boat, and just try to represent all of us as best you can. I appreciate you all letting me know on the channel when you see something really horrible. I just had a note this morning from somebody letting me know on one of the videos there's a couple of horrible comments or something, and so, I went and deleted those, blocked a person or two there, so that really helps me out. I'm getting, obviously with all the videos we have, I can't get around all of them, so let me know if you run into stuff that's really bad. I know there's going to be things I just can't control. A lot of people use profanity every time they open their mouths and that kind of thing. But you know what I'm talking about. If it's something that's really bad, racist, or just whatever, just pretty extreme, let me know. Send me a private message, and you might let them know too. They're not welcome, but and I appreciate that. But anyway, let me know so I can go find it. And if you'll tell me where it is, so what video it is, maybe how long ago it was, on there. Because, man, if we got a video with 1,000 comments or something, I get blurry-eyed looking for something I don't even have time to hardly. But anyway, I appreciate your support. And you guys come back next week and we'll yak at you again. You've been listening to the Hickok 45 radio show. See you on the range.